Tonight I just wanted to say that I'm especially grateful to be able to share with you guys a little bit about emotional eating. And I think that most of us kind of have a general idea, just basically from the name, what emotional eating is, right? We get emotional and we eat. But what I wanted to share with you is just give you a kind of a brief overview, because it is pretty in-depth, you know, what is actually going on. But emotional eating, the definition that we work is when you're eating, anytime you're eating to not physically feed your body because of physical hunger, but you are actually eating in order to feed your emotions or deal with your emotions. So that's kind of the definition that we work with. And so our clients usually have kind of an aha moment when we start explaining the whole emotional eating cycle. So I think the thing about emotional eating is that there is a spectrum, and that, you know, we've all done eating when we didn't feel hungry for whatever reason, or maybe we're upset or anything like that. But then there is all the way at the other end of the spectrum where the person is eating every time they feel any type of emotion that is negative. So where that becomes problematic for the person is when it starts interfering with whatever their health goals are, or their health in general. And so I think that unfortunately society is really trying to normalize emotional eating. We see it in commercials and we see it in movies. We see when, you know, the person gets sad, you know, they sit down on their couch and they're sobbing and they've got the carton of ice cream in front of them and they're just eating right out of it. And so it becomes normalized. Okay, so I get sad and I eat ice cream, says Haagen-Dazs, you know, and so we are just really trying to normalize it, but it is not normal and it is not healthy to eat in order to distract us from the emotions or to procrastinate dealing with the emotions. And so we get caught in this cycle. And what the cycle looks like is that we have a triggering event, and then most people think, well, the event made me feel this feeling, this negative emotion. And it's actually not the event that made you feel the emotion. It is your thoughts about the event that is what is driving that negative emotion. And so I'll give you kind of a little bit of a practical type analogy. So because we help busy professionals, let's say that you are in an office and you have a project deadline and your boss comes in and dumps a project on you. And so that's the triggering event. And then the first thing you start thinking is, oh my gosh, how can he do this? He's such a jerk and I'm never gonna be able to finish this, and I'm not gonna meet my project deadline, so I'm gonna get fired. I need to start looking for a new job. I need to get on my resume during the lunch hour, and you just get yourself completely worked up and stressed and frustrated and all that thing. And then your brain says, because your brain likes to help you, your brain says, hey, remember when you start feeling this way, what we do to feel better is we go and get something to eat. That makes us feel so much better. And guess what? Somebody brought a box of donuts this morning from whatever your donut place is. They're closed, right?
Yeah.
They're in on the counter, the office counter, kitchen counter. Let's go have one of those. And so you go, okay, I'm gonna go eat the donut. And so you go in, you grab the donut, then you might grab 2 donuts, and you start to feel better because we get a dopamine rush and we feel better. But the thing is, we're in that cycle, right? And pretty soon you start to feel better and your higher brain starts thinking again, and your higher brain says, oh, but wait a minute, you're pre-diabetic. You weren't supposed to have that donut. Remember? How could you be so stupid? why did you do this to yourself again? And your brain just really starts working on you again and building up the guilt and the regret. And then your brain starts telling you all the things, and that can actually become your next triggering event. And so you're right back in that cycle around and around. So what we like to do is, first of all, help clients realize what doesn't work. And I'm not going to go into it real deeply, but what doesn't work is trying to work yourself into a willpower or restriction mode. That doesn't work very well, because the minute we start restricting and telling ourselves that we can't have something, what happens? It's just like your teenager. The minute you say you can't have this or you can't have that, you start rebelling. And the thing is, with willpower works great as long as we are calm and as long as everything's going our way. But the minute it starts coming unraveled and we go back into our lower brain, then willpower is out the window, and we're going to do whatever makes us feel better the quickest. So anyway, what I wanted to share with you guys is one of the things that we start with our clients is just helping them become aware of this cycle, and also just for anybody who is wanting to help keep their healthy habits going, is that when we set goals for ourselves, and I'm gonna use this example in a health related way because that's kind of what we're here, but I think you could probably apply this to other areas of your life, that anytime you set a goal for yourself and you're going along and life is good, it's easy to keep working towards your goals. But what happens when you get to a point in your week where something unexpected happens and your plan all goes out the window? So what happens most of the time is we get kind of caught in this all or nothing thinking. So if we had planned to pack a healthy lunch, say, all week long, and are we good?
You're good, yeah.
Okay. So we plan to eat healthy and pack our healthy lunch and everything, but we have a morning where it all, goes to heck. The dog vomits in the floor and you have to stop and clean that up. Or, the other day I, accidentally knocked the olive oil off the counter, and, I'm trying to get olive oil cleaned up off the floor, you can imagine. Yeah, so we're still like sliding through our kitchen, right? And so anyway, there's no time to pack the healthy lunch that you planned. Or, you have exercise goals and you want to get to the gym, every evening after work. That's your plan. But all of a sudden things start going wrong at work and you realize you have to work overtime. There's not going to be time to stop at the gym. So, when you get in this all or nothing thinking, then you're like, okay, well, I guess my workout's out the window and I'm gonna have to just forfeit working out today. And so what I would like to share with you guys is what is called the POP plan. And if any of you are familiar with Michelle Seeger, she just recently came out with a new book. It's called The Joy Choice. And so this is from her. And the POP plan is, whenever these things happen, how can you make the best of it? How can you keep moving towards your goals, but also understanding that life happens? So what POP stands for, it's an acronym. So the P stands for pause. So pause a moment when that happens so that you can, have your brain in the mode of creativity, or at least in problem solving mode, and start thinking. And then the O is to come up with options. Start thinking, instead of just saying, it's either I can pack my healthy lunch or I'm gonna go out to lunch, and since I have to go out to lunch, I'm gonna have Cane's, or I'm gonna have whatever, Start thinking, is there more options between the black or the white? Exercising. Is there more options between going to the gym after work or coming home and sitting on the couch and watching TV? So start getting creative about options. So maybe it's, you know, the simple as, well, I didn't get a chance to pack my healthy lunch, but instead maybe I can go to Panera and get a salad or something like that. And these are kind of simplified examples, but you know, you guys can get creative, right? Or with exercise, you know, instead of not being able to stop at the gym or come home and sit on the couch, maybe I can choose to take my dog for a 10-minute walk. And I got in at least 10 minutes of exercise. So I've made the perfect imperfect choice, as Michelle would say. And so I can do the thing that is still moving me towards my goal. My brain gets the reward because I'm doing things to move me towards my goal. Even though it may not be exactly what I planned, I'm still moving forward. So the POP plan helps with that. So the last thing that I wanted to share with you guys tonight is kind of going back to that, that pause state. And so we'll do a little mindfulness exercise, and so something that you can do in that pause moment in order to get yourself calm and back into your front brain. So it's the 5 senses, mindfulness, and so we'll just take a minute and do that. I'm not going to take 5 minutes, but generally you would probably want to spend at least 5 minutes doing this to get yourself completely calmed back down. But so the first thing we're going to do is use our eyes, and you're just going to pick one thing in the room and just completely focus on that thing. And actually first I'm going to have you take a deep cleansing breath. Okay. And now, pick something in the room, focus on it, and just see what you notice about it. Notice as many things as it is possible to notice about that thing. Notice color, size, texture, just whatever you can tell yourself internally about that item. Okay, and then for the next one, we'll have you go ahead and close your eyes. And we're going to start focusing on our sense of smell. So just smell see what you can smell in the room. Maybe you can smell your own perfume. Maybe you can smell equipment in the room. Just whatever you can smell. To our sense of hearing, and just start focusing. See how many different sounds you can identify. And then the sense of touch. Feel your clothes touching your body. Feel the air moving around your body. Feel where one of your limbs is maybe touching your other limb. Just whatever you can imagine in your mind about touch. And then the last, we're going to focus on taste. So just tasting what is in our mouth. Maybe you had onions for lunch. Maybe you popped a mint before you came in. Maybe your mouth is dry, like mine. All right, now open your eyes, and your body should be calmer so that you can start making those better decisions and choosing your perfect, imperfect choice in that moment when things have gone wrong. So I did bring along an emotional eating quiz. If you'd like to, if you're curious about that, you're welcome to take one. And also on the back, I actually have a couple links there. We have a Facebook group that is just for emotional eating support and just encouragement and things like that. We also do have other Facebook groups. You can go to Trifecta Wellbeing on Facebook and just find out more about us, or check out this Facebook group. And there's also a link to another quiz online that we have. It is a quiz that kind of tells you your emotional eating style. It's kind of fun to take. And so you can either go there or give me your phone number or email, and I'd be happy to text you the link if you don't want to type it all in. But anyway, it is email based, so you would have to submit your email in order to get your results. So I just want to be transparent and upfront about that. So thank you guys.
So you guys know my name is Stephanie. I am an energy practitioner, and some of the things that I work with people is on limiting beliefs. Because most of the time, you know, I mean, we all have them based on our childhood and growing up, and kind of how we see the world, how we see people, and just how we overall relate. So one of the things that she talks about is that we have patterns of stuckness, and so the way that I see this is how it occurs for me, and this is what I'm gonna share with you guys, is it shows up in relationships with me, whether it's friendships, whether it's family, whether it's, you know, my husband. One of the things I've noticed is this, a lot of the same thing that Laura talked about, is that visceral response that you get in your body when you're having a conversation with somebody and they say something and it kind of hits you a certain way. Then I say you need to kind of go in and say, okay, why does that hit me that way? You know, how am I hearing what they're saying? What am I making that mean? And what do I believe about that? Because typically it's a reflection of our own inner world and how we feel. So she says, freeing ourselves by creating new stories. Like, we see people, we create stories. I do this a lot, and I'm just going to speak from my own experience. Like, one of my core beliefs that we're going to work on tonight was I'm not enough. And I had that most of my life, and how that showed up for me was I never finished things, I didn't follow through on things, and I procrastinated a lot. And I didn't put myself out there in school settings, and just after school, it was just really hard for me to like really connect with other people. Because if you don't feel enough, you're really just sitting in a room comparing yourself or finding the reasons why you're not enough. You're just looking for evidence for that. So one of the things that I had to do, and I don't even know if I'm going to use this, but it was something that I brought, because I usually intuit what I do. But one of the things that I did, I started working with a coach. And even what I noticed for myself in working with that coach is, like, when I was doing the work, I would have this internal feeling with me, like knowing I'm doing the work, I'm coming up with the statements, but there was just this core emptiness inside of me. And I almost couldn't even be 100% honest with the coach, because I didn't even feel good enough to be coaching with her, to even be paying to work with her. Like, I can't. So, I mean, having that core feeling and having it show up in my life in so many different ways, between just the people I picked as friends, the relationships that I chose, you know, how I interacted with my parents or didn't interact with my parents, because those uncomfortable feelings came up inside of me. So after I stopped working with this particular coach, because she triggered every single feeling inside of me that I didn't want to look at or didn't want to feel, and the way that I showed up in that relationship is like, I looked at her like she was making me wrong. Nothing I could do was right. I'd made it that she didn't like me. I wasn't a good student. You know, something was wrong with me. And I sabotaged that entire relationship. I just cut her off. I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna coach with you anymore. I'm gonna cut you completely out of my life. And I didn't even realize until later, till working with some other healers and other coaches, what was really going on. Because I just had rose-colored glasses on. I couldn't see beyond that space. So I started working with some other healers, and I started really digging into that feeling of, like, I'm not enough. That belief, like, why do I believe that I'm not enough? Because certain things, you know, in my childhood had kind of reflected to me if I couldn't do the art project right, or, you know, I colored outside of the lines and that wasn't perfect enough, you know, for my mom. if I didn't do the math problem right, you know, or I couldn't write the paragraph correctly without, you know, getting a D or an F. Like, all those things were reasons why I adopted beliefs on why I'm not enough. So what she says in here is some of the stories, and I'll just share them with you guys on, you know, some of the things that maybe you can just kind of internalize for yourself or reflect on maybe a time in your life. Did you ever have that? So on the Today Show, they said why I chose I'm not enough is because on the Today Show, they said that that's like a #1 core belief for a lot of people. Doesn't matter your success, you know, because it just doesn't. It's just it's a core feeling in humanity. So how it shows up in your life: be other directed and chronically like self-sacrificing. That could be something that you do. Rarely be satisfied because you are focused on other people's needs and or external standards of perfection or success. You take responsibility for other people's happiness, satisfaction, and fulfillment. You feel that you have to do more than everyone else to get the same amount of success and recognition. You believe you exist to please others. You commit to things that will not satisfy you. You be overly diligent to care for the needs and upsets of others, often forging your own in the process. You undereat. You feel as though you never have enough time, money, resources, love. You're the jack of all trades, so you don't like just commit to one thing and focus and stay with that. You're overly considerate of others' needs and upsets. You give up on things before attaining a level of mastery. And you frequently find yourself burdened by too many obligations pulling you in all different directions. And often the effects on others feel that no matter how much they do to show their love and support, it's never quite enough for you. They're overly dependent upon you. Learn to feel entitled to have you do more for less. Don't trust you to keep your word on what you say you're going to do and feel as though you are settling for them. And then the beliefs that you might adopt about others, or others don't value me. Others expect more from me than they do others. Others always want more from me than I can realistically give. So, and then your belief about life: there's never enough to go around. And you may covertly say self-depreciating and self-diminishing comments about yourself, particularly when others try to praise and acknowledge you. Like, and that's more of a being able to receive, you know, and see yourself in the way that others do. So one of the ways that kind of I worked through this is, like, I started creating deeper truth statements. So even though I have this feeling that I'm not enough, I have to flip that, and I have to flip the perspective, and I have to start looking for reasons why I am enough. Whether that's in a relationship or just even friendships, because I think even with women, you know, as you grow up, women are hard. That's a story, but I'm just saying that I've adopted as a young kid that it was hard to be friends with women. So here's some deeper truth statements that I have is: as I do and give less, I become more open to receiving love, acknowledgement, support, and appreciation from others. I am deeply grateful for all that I have, and I profoundly appreciate all that I am. I always have enough time, enough money, enough support, and enough love to live the life that I was born to live. I am more than enough for myself and others. I exist to please myself, and I choose to please others if and when it pleases me to do so. And I care deeply about my own happiness and satisfaction and prioritize my own well-being in life. So these are some of the things that I've created that I say to myself if anytime I'm not feeling that way or things are coming up. And I also like to do a mindfulness exercise with that. One of the things I can say that if that's something that you struggle with or have struggled with and you're like wanting to retrain your mind, one of the things that I do is I record these statements and then I listen to them at night before I go to bed. And so then it kind of deeply embeds it, that it just automatically, even though that feeling comes up, what has now happened is like those thoughts automatically, these deeper truth statements come in. So that was like my thing tonight, very quick and
Very good.
yeah.
And what was the book again?
It's Step Into Your Feminine Power by Claire Zammit. It's actually I think it was like a 9-week course that we dig into. It's like, she's phenomenal and great about getting into your belief systems and transforming them and creating some deeper truths and new narratives for your life.
Awesome.
Beautiful.
Anybody have any questions for Stephanie?
So many of our beliefs can actually be hindered or limited from our childhood, even in the womb, even far back from the womb, or from our upbringing. So how many of you are looking for ways to actually break free from those hindrances or vicious cycles of sabotage? So let's talk about how to do that using essential oils. So why we actually use essential oils is because they work directly on the limbic brain, the emotional center. They're very powerful. One drop is enough to service every single cell in your body 400 times over. Now, in my experience, I've actually learned that you really can't choose the wrong oil. And that's pretty exciting, right? So no matter what you choose, there'll be some sort of benefit emotionally and physically from utilizing that essential oil that you chose. So that's pretty exciting, right? That it's completely foolproof, right? So let's talk about which oils, okay? So we're gonna pass around cassia. Now on your handout, you can see that cassia helps displace fear and replace it with self-assurance. So when we're struggling with fear, rejection, feeling shy, timid, very unseen, cassia helps us feel less of those and feel more courage, more unashamed, and more valued, okay? So cassia is an amazing oil that way, right? Now, how many of you struggle with boundaries? Now, my mentor shared with me a while ago, if you don't set boundaries, other people will set them for you. So I'm going to say that again. If you don't set boundaries, other people set your boundaries for you. And sometimes those boundaries need to be set for even ourselves. You ever not set a boundary for you and everything goes sideways? So for an example, every day we may trade something for a convenience. Where maybe we fall victim to our own excuses, right? Because there's a lot of chatter that usually happens up in our head. And the cool thing is clove is great for when we want to feel less controlled, less self-betrayal, and be less codependent. If we're struggling in those boundary settings, clove actually helps us in that area. It helps us feel more empowered, helps us with confidence to set those clear boundaries and feel more protected, okay? Now, we mostly eat emotionally when we're stressed out, right? Okay? So basil is going to be the oil of renewal. So how many of you want to experience renewing of your mind? We heard Stephanie and Laura share about let's replace some of the things that we're thinking or our habits and some of the beliefs with something new, right? So when you're feeling defeated, depleted, or dependent, it's useful to utilize the basil oil to help you feel more energized, renewed, and rested. Now, the nice thing about, I have the little word stress next to basil, and that's because it works really nicely on cortisol. So when our stress level rises and we have the cortisol pumping through our bodies as our stress response, the basil works very similar to something called ubiquinol, which helps to prevent adrenal fatigue and helps that stress response decrease naturally. Okay, so this is why I absolutely, basil is just such an amazing oil. I've been using it for years for energy and keeping that cortisol level down and, helping with blood sugar support and that kind of thing as well. So how many of you were actually taught to be unseen or unheard as a child? Or maybe you just felt invisible. Do you ever struggle with kind of trying to figure out who you are? The more feelings we try to bury, repress, or stuff down, the more they tend to surface and make themselves known, right? So if you struggle with this, black pepper is going to be something that helps promote honesty, authenticity, and courage. Now, I used to self-sabotage a lot. I followed that fruit in my life back to the root in a time where my dad actually said something pretty cruel to me. And I was in this training for holistic nursing, and this sabotage kept surfacing, and it just kept coming up. It was showing up in lots of different areas. And it would show up in my life as worthlessness, feeling like overly self-critical. You know, why'd you say that? Why'd you do that? You shouldn't have done that. You need to say this next time, or you need to do this next time, or why don't you just keep your mouth shut? You know, you ever have that self-chatter? Yeah. So this is where Slim and Sassy is going to help promote feelings of worthiness, acceptance. It's known as the oil of inner beauty. This has helped me so very much in that arena with all that self-sabotage, just overcoming that, training my brain to think something differently, tell a different story, if you will. So this next blend is actually designed to cleanse organs and systems of the body. Now, emotionally, this blend assists in times of transition and change. And like when we're detoxing from like old habits or a limiting belief, when an individual has felt maybe trapped or had some like self-sabotaging behaviors, right? Zendocrine is very helpful in helping you let go of those behaviors that are destructive to health and happiness. It's especially helpful during times of major life changes, okay, which require adjustments in our habits and our lifestyle, things like maybe a diet change or, you know, altering or quitting smoking or leaving a toxic relationship. Have you done any of those? Yeah. Zendocrine helps you feel more revitalized, unrestricted, and clear. Now, if you flip your sheet over on the backside, I have some other combinations of oils where maybe you've got some different kind of struggles. Porn recovery support. You're going to want to use frankincense, helichrysum, and vetiver. It's drugs and alcohol where you maybe need some support there. Zendocrine, Roman chamomile, frankincense, and basil over the forehead, over the liver. The liver's on like underneath your left breast. If you're trying to detox from energy drinks or, you know, ditch the addiction to energy drinks, basil, grapefruit, and Slim and Sassy are going to be very beneficial for you. Video game addiction, Serenity and vetiver on your temples 2 to 3 times a day. Now, you can also do these more often if you need to, okay? If you want to quit smoking, black pepper, clove, and lavender, and frankincense. You can put that in a roll-on, about 10 drops of each. Apply every time. I like to put it on the wrists. Apply every time you get that urge. You can also use any combination of those oils that I talked about. On that front side of your handout, you can use any combination of those oils that resonate with you. I like to put 1 to 3 drops of each in a diffuser for emotions and issues that I need assistance with. If you have something specific that you're working with or working on, you can comment below. Or if you're more comfortable, you are more than welcome to send me a PM. I want to just say an extra special thank you to my amazing team. Stephanie and Laura, you're phenomenal. Love what you shared. It totally resonates, and I just want to say thank you so much for your time, your expertise, and for pouring into my friends at this wellness workshop. Thank you.